Welcome back to Exhausted Sparrows Unite. I am Krista Jones, your host, joined by some of my amazing friends today, and we are going to talk a little bit about giving yourself breaks. Not just breaks in your personal life, but we're going to talk today about giving yourself breaks in your professional life. Have you ever felt like, I don't know, work is just running your life? Whether you're the boss or the employee, the pressure to always be on is real. But here is the truth. Burnout is not a badge of honor. Today, I'm diving in with my friend Stephen Whalen from Whalen Architecture, and of course, my lovely co-host, Chauntel Shaffer, my friend, employee extraordinaire. And we're going to talk a little bit about all of that and why stepping away is so important and might even be the secret to coming back even stronger. So I want to welcome you two to the show today. And this is a topic that I have been wanting to do since we started this podcast, 12 episodes ago, because it hit me strong. I was like, this is something that every single person in our life needs to hear and can apply, because we are living in a world where we do not get a break and burnout is real. And today we need to talk about why that is not a badge of honor. And so many of us wear it as if it's a badge of honor. Like, look at me, I do 18-hour shifts. I mean, I have said that quite a bit, but it's not a badge of honor.
Not at all.
Hi, Stephen.
Yeah, good morning. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you. Thank you.
So, yeah, absolutely. And, I think every business owner goes through this. When you first start out, you've got all that energy, you've got that drive, that dream, and I think that's what pushes you. But it eventually will get to that point. You're just saying, like 18-hour days. You can probably do that when you're first starting out, but it will catch up to you and it'll burn you out.
And Stephen is a business owner. He owns his own architect firm. He actually, here at Sparrow's Nest, helped design this beautiful building we're now in. If you guys are listening from Argentina or Italy, it's really cool to hear where people are checking in. We are a local charity here in the Hudson Valley, which is in New York, the beautiful New York, and we feed families and individuals that have a cancer diagnosis. Stephen helped to build this building for us. He did all the beautiful drawings for it, and throughout the entire process, he had to listen to Krista Jones as his client. And I was like, there's really windows there. There can't be a door. And he was like, you're killing me.
That was all a pleasure.
You're killing me. But, you can talk about it from a business standpoint. And there's a lot of people here that own their own business that are going to be listening. And it really is true. When you start your own business, there are no vacations. There are no breaks. Your passion has to kind of fuel that. But then there is a point where you learn, and for me, it was the older I got. People said it to me when I was in my 20s, and I just never really caught on to it. But it is better to have a productive 8 hours than a really exhausted, tired 18.
Yeah, and especially like the number of days you work, because I had a string, when I was first starting out, I had a string of just 7 days a week for months. And then didn't realize that when you take a step back, when you take a day off, you get recharged, you get rejuvenated. You want to get back to work, and that's like where the burnout and like it's like you don't miss work. And I think it has to get to that point. You have to actually miss what you're doing so that you can go back into it.
That's true.
It's like I was doing it, every single day. And when I was first starting out, I was trying to, make a name for myself, start to, get out there so that people would start referring me, and I'd grow my business. And that was the fuel, but I wasn't taking a step back. I wasn't taking any time off. And yeah, it's like, and burnout will like creep up on you and you won't even know that it's coming. And then when it does, it's like, oh, I got to take a step back. I got to want to miss this.
Well, yeah, because it also takes this passion, right? And all of a sudden you're like, I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. You know what I'm saying? And so like you said, if you take some time off, then you're refreshed when you go into work the next day.
Absolutely. And especially if you've already gotten to the point of growing your business and now you have people working for you, you get to that point where it's like, I don't want to do this anymore. It's like you're not only affecting yourself, you're affecting everybody around you.
That's true.
And especially
Right.
if you're walking into your office, you're walking into your business and it's like, I don't even want to be here right now. Everyone's going to hear that. They're going to sense that and be like, wow, I don't want to be here either.
And that's a good point, though. I want to talk about, when you are a boss, it's really important that you lead by example. So if you're not taking breaks, if you're not taking vacations, Chantal probably is side-eyeing me right now. But if you're not doing any of that, your employees feel that they cannot do that. And sometimes you kind of have to go to extremes here. I said to her, we're shutting the office down on Fridays. We have to, it's a real extreme. But in order for me to get a break, I need to know that my employees are getting these breaks, right? And so they were laughing when I said this. I just said it this week. I said, but we're going to start wrapping some things up and we are taking Fridays off because I have to take this off. And I need to know my staff's not here working while I'm taking this off. It's a weird thing with me. I don't know where that comes into, but I think as a boss, if you're listening to this too, your employees are looking at you. They're looking to see if you're taking the time for yourself. They're looking to see if you really still love your job. I think, Chauntel can tell you, I at least recognize it. Sometimes it's hard to put it into action.
Well, it's very difficult when my boss goes on vacation and is calling and texting from an island for a few hours.
Island in the stream.
Because then when I go on vacation, I feel obligated to check my email and to touch base and check in. So you're 100% correct. If you're not going to shut off, we're not going to shut off.
Sure. But don't you think though, Stephen, I don't know that we can shut off as much as our employees too. Like we do need some shut off, but I think, I don't know, we're living in a culture that is so immediate, right? Especially for you. I am in a charity, which is different now, but I used to own my own DJ business. And we are in this culture that's so immediate that if you don't get back to somebody like within an hour, like they've moved on to the next architect. They're like, well, he didn't call me back.
Yeah. And it's tough, because like, you're absolutely right. Everybody's strapped to a cell phone, and now our cell phones can do everything. We can email, we can text. I try not to give my cell phone number out to everybody I meet because I do get those phone calls. It's like a Saturday night at like 9:00 and I'm looking down at my phone. I'm just, relaxing, watching TV. And it's like, you're calling me on a Saturday night. And there have been times I've answered that call, depending upon like who's on the other end. But then there's other times it's like, no, Monday morning, it can wait until then. And that's the fine line of like when you're like you were just saying about going away, like you're on vacation and yeah, you got to get away from parts of it. But I don't think you can actually like 100% like divorce yourself from work.
Sure.
When you go away, it's like, oh, I got to call that guy when I get back. Oh, I got to go to this meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm guilty of it too.
Yeah.
I haven't had like a 100% vacation in years.
We used to go to the Bahamas all the time because, I was too cheap to pay the international fees. It's better now. So we just kind of continue that trend where there, we try to go every other year. We're able to get there a little more now that the kids are grown up. But, so what I try to do now is I try to give myself a 2-hour block every day because then I feel better. Mm-hmm. If I've got this 2-hour block, I'll call them, I'll answer emails, I'll do all of that. And then I know once I leave the hotel, I don't get the international calling. So once I physically go to the water or I move away, I don't take the phone with me because then I've got all these roaming charges because I'm a cheap person. So I feel good. I feel like that is my boundary. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that is needed. That's needed on a boss level. And it's needed on an employee level. You need to be able to set boundaries. I think I've told this story before. I don't know if I've told it in a podcast or not, but I actually was taught by an employee that, you can't just call me at 7 at night. Because for me, this charity is all I live, sleep, and breathe. Because if somebody's sick, I need to answer the phone. I need to, pray. I need to talk to them. I need to bring them food. Whatever it is I need to do, this charity, like, I'm always on. And so I called her one night. I shouldn't even say I called her one night. I was calling my employees all the time. Anytime something came up, I was always calling. And she said to me, listen, you have me during the day and you can absolutely call me if you need me to fix a flyer, if you need me to send out an email to somebody and you can't get by your computer. She said, but I need to separate my work from my home. And she said, you have to respect that. And I was like, it was like such an awful feeling. I was like, she's absolutely right. But sometimes as bosses, we don't think about that because our brains are going 24 hours a day. And so we're just throwing it out there to employees. So I try now, like if I need you, I will call or maybe I'll text. But I'm also trying like to put chores so that it's stuff that we can wait and do in the morning because most of it can wait.
Absolutely. And I think that's also like another fine line. It's like if you completely, let's say, like walk away from everything, like you're on vacation and it's like, I'm not going to do a single thing. The fine line there is that when you get back, it's like a landslide. All this stuff is now going to hit you. So that's like been like my mindset. It's that, all right, I'm going to go away, but I'm going to just take care of a couple things just so I'm not like trying to hold back the dam once I get back and it's like, oh, I got to go to 16 meetings in 2 days. I got to respond to all these emails, all these phone calls, just to like lessen the burden like once I get back from, trying to relax.
Right. And I think that's good, but I think it's up to us, in the leadership role to create like a no guilt culture, right? Like we don't want our employees to feel guilty when they ask for time off that's coming to them. Here in the charity world, we don't pay well. But I said to Chantal as she and I were going back and forth in the interview process, I said, listen, I don't pay great, but if you are going to go and watch your child win an award, or if your child has tea at school, you don't need to clock in and out. You don't need put it on the calendar. So I just know you're not there. I forget half the time. I'm like, see you tomorrow. She's like, my daughter has an award. I'm like, didn't look at the calendar. But I think it's up to us that we also create this no guilt culture. Because you can't expect, I feel we can't expect, as bosses, maybe we're wound a certain way, but that's not fair to expect our employees to take that over. And I know Chantal, I think that was part of the reason she came into this culture is because I said to her, if there's a snow day, I'm not making you come in. If your kids have off in the summer and you want to spend Fridays with them and you don't have childcare, spend Fridays with them. Like, I'm not looking at everything she does and coming to her at the end of the year and saying, you took 33 days and 4 hours.
No, but it takes, and I'm going to toot my own horn, it takes a certain kind of person to not take advantage of that. I don't take every day that my kids have off, and I do find childcare, and I do send them to camp, because that's not fair to you either, for me to take advantage of that.
Absolutely. But you don't, right? You don't take advantage of it. And I think, though, it's important as bosses for us to give, you have to give some grace, because it's really hard being a working parent now. There's so much going on during the workday, and you're right. If you do this once a month, like, that's a lot. But when you have a dentist appointment or you have to do all these things, like, I feel you've got to create a culture where your employees also don't feel afraid to take time off within a reasonable amount of time. And Chauntel does not take 33 days and 4 hours off at all.
Yeah, it's definitely important. I think it's good to have, how can I explain it? It's almost like I'd like for my employees to have like that boss mindset. However, not to the extreme that I have. I think it's good for them to experience that. I think, like a good employee has, maybe they've had their own business. Maybe they've been at that level. So they can respect it a lot more. And then they can know like what I tell like my employees, it's like, like the better the firm does, the better you guys will do. But there's a fine line there. It's like, I don't expect you guys to work my hours or to even like, just like be so concerned about every single project that we're working on. It's like, that's my job and I get it. But and again, it's another fine line to have like the responsibility for what you're working on, but also to know it's like, all right, I don't need you to crank out, 80 hours in a week to get this all done, burn yourself out, and then you're useless when you come back on Monday. So,
it's interesting. I saw something, and it wasn't about work. It was about school. It was a college professor posted that a student of theirs submitted an assignment at 2:48 a.m., and the professor did not open it and graded it 20 out of 20. And their response to the student was, your mental health and rest and well-being is more important than my class.
That's smart. Yeah.
So it's kind of the same thing, like you shouldn't be cranking out work at 2:48 in the morning because you're thinking about the bottom line.
And if you are cranking out work at 2:48 in the morning, maybe it's time for a conversation.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Right?
And I've done a little bit of research on this, and especially in my field, it's like the productivity goes down like almost exponentially the longer you work.
Well, right. Think of your brain as a muscle, right?
Yep.
Like if you sprint nonstop, your legs are going to give out. The brain, it works the same way. Studies show that during rest, your brain moves into a default mode. So that means it's able to process emotions, creativity. Constant work instead brings the brain to operate in a survival mode. And survival mode is where you have like reduced problem solving. You know what I mean? So if you're always going without that rest, your brain's not functioning the way it needs to function, and your work is not at 100% anyways. And no boss wants that either.
No, absolutely. And especially being the boss, you're coming in and you just have like brain fog, and then all the other employees are like, well, he's all foggy, why am I giving 100% if he's only, if he's like coasting in on like 20,
right?
Because, there for a while I was just, functioning, well, quote unquote, functioning
right
on like 4 hours of sleep a night. And, as I'm getting older, I can't do that anymore. It's just, it catches up to you. And it's like, I got to be clear. I got to be focused in what I'm doing. I can't give an answer. And it's like, oh, that's all right. I'll
right.
deal with it later. It's like, no, I give that answer. It better be correct. Or else it's going to come back.
And if you can't do, vacations, like it could even be a lunch break. Like, let's talk about small breaks. You don't, have to say I'm stressed. I'm going to the Bahamas for 4 days. Like,
can we say that?
We can say that. But, you literally can say, I am going to go for a walk for lunch here in the Hudson Valley. It is finally hitting 50, 55 degrees, and we're all ready to put on our bathing suits. We're like, this is great. But, it could just be that you go outdoors. It could be that you sit on a bench. It could be that you shut the office to your door for a half hour and you listen to music. It's some kind of break where your mind is not constantly working, because we all know that you cannot do 5 and 6 and 7 things at once and do them well, as we said when we first started the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. And I started doing that too. It's just, getting away. Every once in a while I'll go out and I'll just sit in my truck. Nobody knows where I am. I do bring my cell phone with me just in case I'm going to get that call, but I'm not looking at it. I may be playing a game on it, but for about a half an hour, I just sit out there.
I'm going to drive through your parking lot now. I'm going to be like, is Stephen in his car?
Chris is going to be knocking on your window.
I just realized this is now on the podcast.
It sure is, which means now everybody knows you need a new hiding spot.
I can't go back to the office, but yeah, listen to the podcast. Guess what I do almost every single day when I just disappear.
Yeah. But that's like a great rejuvenation right there. And something else I was thinking about, for those of you that are listening, we have this really cool superhero challenge that is coming up, depending on when you're listening to this. It is going to start in April, and we are in 2025 in case you decide to listen to this podcast in 2027. We have this really cool challenge that's coming up where we ask you to commit to miles. And for me, if I commit, I'm accountable, right? So you can do like a mile a day, 2 miles a day, 4 miles a day. So, we have to go big here. We're like 4 miles, but that is going to force us out of the office into the fresh air, hopefully not talking about work the entire time and getting a break.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You can be creative with this, but you need some kind of break in order to survive. So, it's like this whole cultural shift, and we mentioned it at the beginning, and it's really important to talk about it because we look at all these people on social media and we're like, success is the hustle. Right? Like you're seeing all these people hustle and their house is clean and they're hustling and their kids are happy. And, because it's not a true authentic image.
Mm-hmm.
People are putting that on Facebook. But then all of a sudden you're like, well, then I should be able to work 14 hours and make a 5-course meal when I get home. Or Chauntel's bread, which I didn't save you any today, but sourdough bread is a big thing in the Sparrow's Nest world. And I'm like, and I do immediately when I ate the bread this morning, I was like, how does she have the time to make the bread? Now I'm going to work my 14 hours, go home and try to make the bread. But that's the world we live in.
It is. And, I'm not a boss. I don't run a business, but I run a household. And very early on, I learned that I couldn't pour into the cups of my family if I was empty. So I started running in 2020 during COVID when, everything was together and we were all together and I was burning out fast. And that's when I started running, and I was able to show my kids that mommy's taking 35, 45, maybe an hour to herself. And I was so mentally more available to them when I took that time. So, I can see it in the same way as being a boss. Like you take that 30 minutes to play Candy Crush or whatever you're playing on your phone because you're pouring into yourself, you're refilling your cup so you can pour into your clients and your employees.
And you make a good point because what do our kids see? Like to me, I'm like, this is fine. This is fine. Of course, I think it's fine for me. But then I think I would never want my kid to work the hours I work. You know what I mean? Like, I want them to be successful but sometimes I don't shut it off. And I think about that and I think there's so much more to life than just work.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. And I don't want them to see that. And, they've made comments and part of me is like, oh my gosh, it's too late. But I'm like, it's really not too late. It's never too late to start, and I think we beat ourselves up as parents, but we have to have those breaks too, because we have to pour into ourselves. And we have to pour into them. We have to we have to give them undivided attention, which in today's world is nearly impossible with social media and these phones and Candy Crush.
And I check in with my kids every once in a while. It's like I want them to have my drive, but I don't necessarily want them, I definitely don't want them in the same profession as me. But I do check in with them. I'm like, you see it, it's like a crazy time right now. I'm working all crazy hours, but I always tell them it's like, you guys are first. You guys are most important. My job can wait. Like something comes up and it's always like, yeah, Dad, whatever. But at least I'm checking in with them.
100%.
And, and it, I think it's working. I keep checking in with them. It's like, everything's good. You see, I'm going in 30 different places at once, but just checking in with them, just
You're
making sure
time.
Just making sure everything's good. And it's like, look, you got a game, you got a recital, you got whatever's going on in your life. I'm going to be there. I may be asleep, but I'm going to be there. Yeah. Eyes pinned open.
Weekend at Bernie's, sunglasses on.
Whatever works. We'll get you there. We will drag you there, Stephen. Don't you worry. I do that too, kind of a little different, but whenever the phone rings, I say that to them. I said that to Chantal when she first started working here a little over a year ago. I said, listen, that is the one thing that I do. And I'll even do it in meetings, but I'll say, hey guys, I'm in a meeting. I got to go. I'll call you back. Anytime the kids call me, I try to give them at least a couple minutes. And they call me quite a bit because of that. I've created this habit. And they love to FaceTime me now. Like, why? If you're listening and you're like, I don't know, anywhere between 11 and 22. Why? Why can't you just call me? Why do you need to see my face? But they do that. You know, they're in college, they're away. So I try to give them that time too, because that also says to them, there's nothing too important that I can't pick up the phone and at least say to you, I'm busy and I'll call you back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Is it working? Maybe not. Are they in therapy because of it? Probably so. It's okay.
It's hard.
So, all right, practical tips before we go, because we've talked about how this is not easy, but we have to then figure out how do we stop it, right? So, or how do we at least, you know, cut down and give ourselves some kind of break during the day. You have to schedule downtime. At least I do. I have to literally put something on the calendar or else I won't take it. So like today, Fiona has an appointment and I have PT. But in between that, I'm not coming back to work. I have scheduled that I am out from 12 o'clock on. I am not coming back today. That is a tip that works for me. Otherwise, I won't do it. What do you guys think? What do you do?
So I read, I can't even remember how long ago it was, but it was a while ago. It's 2 words that I'm trying to just like keep in my life. It's healthy distractions. And it's got to be, it can't be anything related back to work. I mean, you ask any one of my friends, like wherever we go, I'm looking around. It's like, oh, wow, look at that detail. Oh, wow, that's a cool building. It's very dangerous to drive with me, especially like in Manhattan, because I'm looking all around all the time. But there are other things that like, I'm a big golf fan. You know, I try to play as often as I can. I try not to let work like disrupt that schedule. Like if a bunch of the guys are like, hey, we're going out to play, I'm keeping that tee time. You know, it's like, I'm not saying, oh, you know, something came up with work and I'm in a league and it's like Monday nights I'm playing golf and everybody in the office knows it. It's like, nope. It's like, it's 4 o'clock. I'm out.
So it's scheduled. You also have a scheduled time that you take for yourself.
And I'm focused on playing. I'm not thinking about work. You know, my phone goes off. It's a contractor. Hey, you got to come over here. No, it's like, I'm not taking the call. And that, you know, 2.5 hour break once a week is perfect for me. And it's a healthy distraction.
Chantal?
I shut off my email notifications starting at 3:30 every day so that if I get an email from work, I don't see it. I do check it periodically, especially if something's going on. And then after like 7 o'clock, I am on the couch with my kids crocheting. And that's just my built-in like refresh at the end of the day.
Yeah. It's important. I mean, all of this is important. It's stuff that we've got to do, but it's hard to do. And, you know, doing things as well, like just embracing, I think those tech-free moments are so important on so many levels, because it's also showing our kids that are so addicted to the phone as we are, that we can take that time and do something else. Crochet, games.
So I instituted screen-free dinner. Now my kids don't have phones. So now it's just my husband and I, and I'm like, all right, phones are not here. And he picked up his phone the other day and my kid took his phone and hid it. And she said, no, there are no screens at the table.
Yeah, we don't do screens at the table either. Do you guys?
I mean, they're there, you know, the phones are there, but, you know,
but nobody's
when we're all together having dinner, it's like, what are you doing?
Actually, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Get off your phone. So this is the way that, you know, we can live, guys. We can live with breaks. And I think that's really important. Again, it's not a badge of honor to be burnt out. You're not going to win. Whether you're the boss or the employee, taking a break isn't slacking off. It's an investment in yourself and it's an investment in your work. So go ahead and take a vacation or log off every once in a while. Remember that rest isn't a reward, it's a right. Thank you to both Stephen and Chantal for helping me refresh today. I might not come back all week. That might be a bad thing, or Chantal might find that a good thing. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, if you love Exhausted Sparrows Unite, check out all of our podcasts. You can go to sparrowsnestcharity.org and sign up for our superhero challenge. Find out how you can make a difference in the lives of others, because sometimes that's the break we all need. Until next time, take care of yourself and each other.